Brandon Ingram is 27 years old. He's a former All-Star. A lot of people have seen him play. We know what his game looks like. It is dependent a lot on his unreal shot-making ability, something that the Raptors don't have a lot of. Over his past 300 games, he's averaged about 23 points and 5 assists, and on like 47, 37, 85 shooting splits, 57% true shooting roughly. The Raptors just signed him to a 3-year, $120 million extension. That's not max money, but it's a very handsomely paid player. Offensively, he can kind of do it all. He's actually great isolating. He's one of the best isolation players in the NBA. His pick and roll is really impressive, to be quite honest with you. He was great last season, and he can post up too. He can score at all three levels. He's very impressive. It's just about fine-tuning his shot diet. It's just about putting him in stronger positions, and yes, relying on him to save the Raptors at times with his shot making, but to put him in easier positions so that instead of 23-5 over 300 games, maybe the next 300 games we're looking at something like 25-5, 25-6, and because you're looking at a much easier shot diet, and we're going to see his efficiency go up as well. I'll show you the plays that the Pelicans put him in and explain why I think the Raptors will be able to put him in better positions going forward. Brandon Ingram, get excited. He's a fantastic player for your Toronto Raptors. Oh yeah, also like the video, subscribe, comment, all that stuff. It helps the channel. Thanks. It is a blessing to be able to run a pistol action and flatten out and get a jumper made over Evan Mobley when things aren't ticking. That's tough basketball, but you also need to get him easier looks as well. And this can be as easy as him backtracking when Pat Williams shoots the gap on a pin down, and then taking the curl all the way for a Pinoy step and dunking it the next time down. Just adding that variation, how he attacks off ball, and making sure he's aggressive going downhill. The Raptors can do this for him, and they will a lot. They use him as a cross screener and then have him come off of a flare, and he's able to dribble into a pull. That's good. The Raptors don't run cross screens very often, but they obviously will be using him as a screener far more often than the Pelicans were. And even when plays don't go exactly how they want to, like he comes off of a stagger and nothing opens up, because the Magic, they really maintain the shell of their defense. He just flattens out and hits a shot over a good defender in Franz Wagner. They run him off an Iverson cut here into space, and he's able to make something happen. Flares to get downhill so he can attack with head of steam. But you see, he does like the mid-range a lot. He really enjoys the mid-range. And I just want to bring up 3 plays that really showcase how talented Ingram is and how he himself can maximize more of what he does going forward. This play is incredible to me. Missy sets a step-up screen, which Jakob Poeltl will do plenty of time for Brandon Ingram. And look at where Ingram picks up the ball and is able to keep stepping to the rim, and he doesn't have to settle for a floater. He's able to step through and lay a finger roll in because he's so long. He hardly ever gets to the rim, but he has all the capability and the length to be able to, especially when he's going downhill so often, because his most common play type is the pick and roll. And again, another step-up screen from Missy, and he just takes that opportunity to walk into a pull-up triple. He hasn't had incredible percentages hitting pull-up threes out of the pick and roll over the course of his career, but it's enough to make the defense respect it to some degree. And then this one, they're not playing drop, so he gets the switch and he has to flatten it out and beat the switch, which of course Ingram is really great at beating switches. He gets to his spot, he gets to his shot. This is why these plays are such a great example of what Ingram is able to do with his talent, because when he persevered to the rim, he was able to get all the way there. When he decided he didn't want the midi but wanted the pull-up 3 instead, it was a comfortable shot for him. And when he faced the switch in the pick and roll action, that defensive scheme, he just flattened out and beat it. He's an extremely talented player. The Raptors and coach Darko Rakovic just have to be able to convince him a little bit more that, hey, we want your shot diet to look a little bit more like this than that. And last season, over 64 games and 718 pick and roll possessions, he was 80th percentile in the NBA as far as creating looks at 1.060 points per possession. That includes the passes he makes out of the pick and roll and when he was scoring. And over 230 isolation possessions last season, he was 80th percentile as well at 1.078 points per possession. Do you know how good 1.078 points per possession is in isolation? That is an unreal number. That's really, really high level scoring. And you can see as you watch this, I've watched so much Ingram film over the past however many days, the past week. Last year, he was 90th percentile in guarded shots and 70th percentile in those makes, so still doing really well. And this year, in his 18 games, he was 99th percentile in guarded shots frequency and 90th percentile in makes frequency. It's just taking hard shots and making hard shots constantly. And he's full stop. He's one of the highest frequency pull-up shooters in the whole NBA. And he's a high level playmaker as well. There's real attempts at manipulating the back end of the defense. There's a real ability to get to dangerous spots on the floor. And yes, like Ingram is a guy who sometimes he makes the defense's job easier than maybe he should because he's so confident in his ability to get to his spot and to make, a difficult jumper. It really is going to be about how the Raptors and he decide to collaborate on this and what they decide and how they want to maximize him, right? But it's never surprising when you see him beat a switch. It's never surprising to see him beat a hedge and recover. It's not surprising to see him beat a bunch of different coverages. He's so capable and he's such a talent. And the Pelicans did like using small screeners for him, and the Raptors love using small screeners for their guys. Ochai Agbaji, Grady Dick, Emmanuel Quickley. They're going to be involved in so much of the screening actions for Brandon Ingram, and he's going to be able to have them as trigger man, as shooters, and that'll create like these big wide lanes for him to drive into as a driver, which is really like the crux of everything, is that you want Brandon Ingram to some degree just, hey, brother, we want you taking some more threes, and we want Scotty Barnes creating more catch and shoot opportunities for you so that not only can you shoot threes, but you can pump and go and drive out of these closeout opportunities. But you just want Brandon Ingram stepping to the rim far more often, and hopefully doing so off of his own dribble, because guys who take the ball to the rim with their own dribble are as valuable as anybody in the NBA. It's an incredible skill to have. And Ingram displays that he definitely can do it. He has the skill set to do many different things on the court, but we just want to see it more often. And here's a good example of how Ingram's shot making can really save set plays that don't work out, because what the Pelicans want to do in this play is run that flex screen between Hawkins and Zion and get a post up, but the Pacers cover it well. And Ingram is just able to take this play that's completely blown up, get to his spot, pull up and bang it over Jarris. Like, really impressive shot making here. And here the Pelicans want to try and run that again, and since Ingram knows the Pelicans load up so much on that action, he just back cuts it. It's a great identification of how he can score on this play. And here you can see Ingram coming off of a flex screen himself to get a post touch and being able to score. The Raptors run a lot of flex screens in their offense as well, whether it's with a guy like Emmanuel Quickley or Grady Dick or Ochai Agbaji. We're going to see Ingram running that baseline and coming clear into open opportunities a lot more. And the trigger man in this situation could very well be Scotty Barnes. So instead of a post up, a lot of these options can end up being lobs or duck downs for layups and that kind of stuff. It's just nice to watch Ingram play because he faces a vast array of coverages, and teams do overload on him, and he's such a good problem solver with the ball in his hand. Now here's the rub. Ingram does not cut like ever, and the Raptors want cutting. That's why I'm not so worried about it, because on the one hand, Ingram is, he's in year 9. He's made an all-star game. He's very set in his ways. Like, that much is clear. However, the Raptors are a team that they cut so much, they screen so much, they love continuous motion. You have to assume that Ingram is going to have buy-in on some level. And you know what's like better than a 6'9" guy with a 7'3" wingspan who does all the things that Brandon Ingram does? That same guy, except coming off of screens towards the rim more often, and not having him hover out above the break constantly, and having a guy who you're comfortable running him on the baseline and on 45 cuts, and a guy who's active. That guy is not only an extremely talented finisher at the rim. You look at his rim numbers year in and year out, they're always impressive, but it's a huge target. He can catch on the move, and on top of all that too, dude, he's a talented passer, catching on the move, making defenses freak out, being able to read with a live dribble. Like, he should be a total terror in motion. Only he's very rarely in motion. He floats and then he saves the possession at the end because he's so talented. But the hope really is that the Raptors are going to be able to just put him in motion, capitalize on that all the time. And when teams really clamp down and they aren't giving the Raptors an inch as far as what they're trying to create with their motion and their ball movement, they can toss it to Ingram and he'll be able to save them at the end of plays and be a superstar in both how he moves and how he finishes. That's the goal here, really. But yeah, that's basically why I think it'll work out and why Ingram will have the best seasons of his career, potentially as a Raptor, because it is very uncommon that there's a player who is as talented as Ingram is, that has a lot of meat left on the bone as far as how he operates, and that guy becomes available, and the team that trades for him is a team that operates offensively in a lot of ways that will build up the things that he doesn't do. That mix of all those things is a really potent one. And I think that's why the Raptors made this bet, not only in trading for Ingram, but also, uh, signing him to that big extension. I think it's going to work out. Of course, things can always go sideways, dude. Things can always go sideways, but I'm a believer in this one. And I mean, what you trade Bruce Kelly and, probably what ends up being the 20 or 21st, overall pick in 2026. It's going to be okay. All right. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe again. Thank you. I'm Samson Folk. This is Raptors Republic. All right. I'll see you.